A natural disaster occurs on Earth, and almost the entire population dies. Survivors hide in abandoned cities behind high walls created with the help of pilgrim robots. All other territories turn into radioactive deserts. A police car drives through the streets of the city. Stopping at an underground parking lot, Sean Wallace goes downstairs and finds a robot that shows he's not going to hurt anyone. That doesn't stop the man. He pulls the trigger and parts of the bot fly off in different directions. Hawk's company insurer, Jacq Vorken, arrives at a family who claims that their robot has harmed their pet. Upon checking, Jacq realizes that this is a lie. The homeowner just wants the insurance. After proving the electronic assistant's innocence, Jacq drives across town to his home, where his pregnant wife Rachel is waiting for him. The couple is expecting an addition in the near future, and the woman is making plans for the future. Jacq receives orders to report to the police morgue. The technician tells a colleague about the cop who destroyed the robot in the underground parking lot. He thought the bot was fixing itself, which is forbidden by the second protocol. According to the technician, someone had upgraded the bot internally. They had added an extra battery to it, replaced all the fluids, and adjusted all the mechanisms. In addition, an inspection reveals that parts from other machines have been added to the robot, and this has been done very well. Vorken has to tell his bosses that the company itself has to pay the costs. Robert Bold does not like this option, and he instructs the insurer to find the culprit in order to keep a good job. Jacq arrives at the robot factory, hoping to find Watchman, the one who was able to change the bot. Vorken inspects the junkyard behind the wall, and in front of him, a guard eliminates one of the homeless men, preventing him from approaching the city. Inspection reveals that the parts inside the robot were not from broken, but from functioning machines. Jacq has to linger and look around the factory, but suddenly he notices the robot calling him after him. The insurer leaves the city, and as soon as he is in the junkyard, a guard from the wall opens fire. Vorken takes refuge in an old container and stumbles upon a robot that has been altered. To avoid being caught, the bot pours machine oil on the floor and sets it on fire. Jacq delivers the wreckage to the company, but no one believes the story that the robot harmed itself. The bot manages to turn on, and Jacq tries to interrogate him to clear himself of suspicion, but nothing works. Bold is convinced that the subordinate arranged the whole thing to get a transfer to the coast. Robert agrees to Jacq's terms, but on the condition that he finds the culprit in the robot changes and closes the case. The technical scientist assures Jacq that the protocols are protected so that no one can change them. Back home, Vorken catches his wife in the middle of an ultrasound. He throws Rachel a romantic dinner and tells her about the impending move to the ocean. There is a quarrel between the couple. Rachel thinks they can't risk going to an unknown place with the baby, and Jacq admits that he only agreed to become a father because of his wife's entreaties. Vorken leaves home and goes to the place where the cop recently destroyed the robot. Examining the crime scene, the insurance man finds a cache, and in it, a nuclear battery. The cop is released, but his colleagues continue to ridicule him, believing that Sean was just hallucinating because of substances. Jacq meets with the cop and offers to help him find the watchmaker to defend his honor. The men go to the Love House together to talk to one of the girls, Cleo, a robot who has been transformed. Sean demands that the landlady tell him who created Cleo, but, not getting an answer, the cop uses his gun again. Running out into the street, Wallace pins his buddy against the wall and asks him to close his case, warning him that he won't look for any watchmaker. Jacq notices a strange car, and he decides to follow it. After reaching an abandoned building, the guy finds himself in the laboratory of Dr. Dupré, the creator of the robot girls. The woman does not believe Jack's story. You need at least the slightest consciousness to fix yourself, and robots cannot have it. The scientist is convinced that all robots are restricted by the second protocol, which forbids them from making any changes to themselves. Vorken returns to his wife, and as he listens to his baby moving, he asks Rachel's forgiveness and vows that he will do everything he can to make them happy. There is some commotion in the laboratory, and the technician immediately runs to report everything to the management. Dr. Dupré also stops work, sensing something strange. Jacq receives a message from the management saying that the investigation is over and he must immediately return the nuclear battery and biocore from the destroyed robot. At the same moment, a second fax arrives, from Dr. Dupré, who asks him to come over. The woman tells the insurer that she did an experiment with his core and installed it in Cleo, after which the robot girl fixed her own leg and stole some parts, which is very unlike artificial intelligence. A bell rings at the lab door, and as she opens the door, Dr. Dupre does not expect the two little bullies to pull the trigger. The doctor's body falls to the floor without a chance. The boys open fire on Vulcan, but he manages to escape out the back door. The mercenaries surround him there, too, but luckily a car stops nearby and Jacq is safe. The insurer notices that Cleo is behind the wheel of the car, but the guy doesn't ask too many questions as the chase begins after them. The robot drives the car into the radioactive desert and gets rid of the chase, but their car flips on its roof. All Vulcan sees are memories of his childhood by the ocean. The guy only opens his eyes in the morning, from the scorching rays of the sun. He asks Cleo for help, and the robot brings his kinsman, who carry Jacq away on a stretcher from the accident scene. Finally coming to his senses, Jacq tries to escape from the robots, but looking around, all he sees is an endless desert. The insured man gives the machines his personal number and orders them to take him back to the city, but the bots all turn out to be transformed. They do not follow orders and decide on their own to take the man where it is safer. Jacq turns around and plans to get to town on his own, but the sun beats the insurer and he falls to the sand, losing consciousness again. All the while, Rachel tries to call her husband, but his phone is off. When Jacq opens his eyes, he sees that night has fallen and he is lying by the campfire, in the company of Cleo and her fellows, who are examining things from the men's pockets. The company's management summons Bolt, where Jack's boss learns that he is the one accused of transforming the robots. At the same time, Rachel falls to the floor, realizing that it is time to have her baby. Cleo tries to talk Jacq into eating a protein meal, and, taking advantage of the fact that the bot girl is distracted, Vulcan throws out the worms and pulls a gun and a pager from his bag. He tries to send a message to his boss, but the battery dies and the guy doesn't know if the signal has had time to get away. Bolt gets a message from his subordinate, and he instructs Wallace to go to the desert and retrieve Vulcan. Together with his underling, the cop arrives at the scene, but, by this time, Jacq is far away from the wrecked car. Seeing Sean's car from afar, Jacq moves away from the robots and fires a flare. Wallace immediately catches up with the travelers, but instead of a friendly greeting, he spreads his arms and destroys the robots. Vulcan has to stop his friend with a flare missile. Frightened by this, the cop's sidekick escapes, not taking the insurer with him into town, but taking the nuclear battery. Vulcan's nerves begin to give out. Finding a piece of chocolate in Sean's pocket, the man begins to cry, not knowing what to do next. At night, one of the robots takes off his mask and throws it into the fire, thinking it looks more natural that way. Looking at this, Jacq realizes that the machines have a mind, and he asks to be taken back to town, promising to give his nuclear battery for it. He says he is worried about his wife and child, but the bots insist and refuse to go back. Bold is taken right out of the house for questioning by a policeman who has returned from the desert. Hawk, the founder of the company, instructs Robert to bring him all the biocore from the rewired robots and the head of Jacq, who set it all up. Jacq and Rachel's baby is born, and the woman is visited at the hospital by Robert's wife. She tells him that he has been visited recently, and in the women's opinion, something is going wrong. The doctor tells the young mother that there have been complications with her insurance, but that all is over now, and Hawk's company has paid for a private room for her and the newborn, and they are being transferred there right now. Cleo leads Jacq on, without explaining where they are going. A car with hunters, led by Bold, has already followed the travelers. Finally, Vulcan sees a building in the middle of the desert with cars parked outside. He also notices a man, and, certain that it is the clocksmith, Jacq pulls off his hood. Beneath the cloak is a robot, stripped of its outer shell. Straightening up in front of the insurer, the bot admits that he is the one who changed the other robots by disabling the second security protocol. Jacq does not believe that all this happened without human intervention, and he walks into the hangar, hoping to find at least one, but instead he sees mountains of spare parts and realizes that the robot does have a high intelligence and is changing his own kin. Vulcan runs to the car to get back to his family, but under the hood it turns out to be empty. Realizing that this is where his end will come, the boy walks to the cliff and looks down at the place where the river used to flow. The robot watchmaker reassures the man, explaining that the time has come for humans to continue their lives in robots, which is why the bots have begun to destroy humans as a relic of the past. It is inevitable, and Jacq must give them the nuclear battery. The hunters reach the site of the recent skirmish, and Bold offers to bury Wallace's body. After receiving a message from the boss, one of the mercenaries gives the old man a shovel and offers to dig while they wait for the two ladies to visit. Jacq finds remnants of an old hot drink on the shelves and enjoys taking a few sips. Cleo turns on the jukebox, and the insurance man remembers how carefree life was before the natural disaster. He asks the robot girl to dance and suddenly realizes that she is capable not only of thinking but also of feeling. Rachel and her daughter are brought to the mercenaries to make it easier for them to catch Jacq. Upon seeing this, Bold realizes that his superiors are acting dishonestly, and in an attempt to protect the woman, he gives his life. In the meantime, the robots assemble a new specimen and plant a nuclear battery in it. Vulcan watches all this, and a day from his childhood by the ocean reappears before his eyes. In the morning, the man is in for a surprise. The robots are assembling a car for him so he can return to his family. Not wanting to waste time, the insurance man gets behind the wheel and, having said goodbye to everyone, drives away. Jacq does not manage to get far. The radiation makes him feel worse. He stops and notices Bold on the ground, who can hardly speak anymore. All the old man manages to say is that Rachel and the child are being held hostage. The hunters' cars arrive at the bot base and open fire, preventing the robots from crossing to the other side of the canyon. The mercenaries call out the insurer's name, dragging Rachel and her young daughter out of the jeep. Cleo tries to explain that Jacq is gone, but the men are only annoyed, and they try to get rid of the intelligent machines. The headhunter destroys the smartest robot and extracts the biocore from it. Afterwards he proceeds to Cleo, but after the first shot, he is distracted by Jacq, who has returned for his family. A firefight ensues. After hitting several targets, Vulcan crawls back to the cliff as he runs out of strength. The head mercenary comes after him, but the creature the robots collected during the night saves the insurance man by throwing the villain into the abyss. Rachel brings her daughter to her husband, and Cleo and the electronic centipede gather around the family. Jacq helps the robots get to the other side of the cliff so they can start a new life and create a new world with no more room for humans. The insurance man himself leaves with his family in search of the ocean to start anew.